flag, and after that, Councilman Poole will give the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, all wise and everlasting God, Lord, we want to thank you for blessing us from our last meeting to this meeting. Lord Father, we thank you that you allow us to gather together to do the business of the town. We ask of your help that we agree one to another and bless the town, bless the community, bless the officers of this board. Lord Father, we ask that you will bless our leaders who are making our town better. And we just thank you and help us to guide our ways along with your ways. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Okay, we have two public hearings tonight. The first one is a conditional use permit, HR Acquisitions LLC to construct a retail store and pharmacy with a drive-through at 801 North Broad Street. At this time, I'll call on Councilman High regarding his review of a potential conflict that prevents him from participating in the discussion votes regarding this.
Thank you, Mayor Stallings. We're all subject to a code of ethics that we signed and agreed to when we became members of this council. And one of the provisions says that if you have some sort of direct or indirect financial benefit in the matter that's coming before us, that needs to be disclosed. And so pursuant to that provision of the Code of Ethics, last week I notified Anne Marie and Hood Ellis, our counsel, that I represent Marion Cross Goodman's family, and they own a piece of property that if this CUP and this variance is allowed, they will be selling that property to the developer and or the new owner. If it is approved, then my firm would get the closing business and representing the Cross family and Ms. Goodman's heirs. We ran it by Hood Ellis, and he agreed that indeed was a conflict and that I should not participate in the voting and I should not participate in the discussion. And he also recommended that I remove myself from this area so as to not cause any confusion with the general public. He then advised that it would be best for me not to make that motion, but one of my fellow council members, upon hearing of that conflict, make a motion second and then vote on recusing or excusing me from the deliberations.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. At this time, we need a motion to excuse Councilman High from voting on this matter.
So moved, Mayor. Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, you recuse.
Thank you.
Right, at this time, I'll call on Anne Marie to review the public hearing process and the requirement the town must follow when the hearing is conducted during a declared state of emergency with remote public access.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And I'm glad that our town attorney is Zooming with us and he can chime in and help. But the council will recall, and hopefully members of the public who've been following along, that because of the state of emergency and the size of our room, we do not offer the same amount of space for the public to attend your meetings because you all are meeting socially distant. So we're very limited in Pat, we're going to get you a chair so you don't have to stay down. Yeah, sorry. So in order for the public to be able to participate in the meetings, we've made available remote access. People can Zoom in or they can call in. But during the times when there's a public hearing, in order that those people who are not here physically can still participate in the process, the laws that were adopted by the General Assembly during COVID, and which you also adopted as your rules and procedures, call for any matter in which you all are receiving public comment on, that you cannot vote on that action until at least 24 hours after the public hearing. And you'll recall that you did this back in May when we had the loan agreement and the submitting our approval for debt to the LGC. So it's the same process. So with this conditional use permit hearing tonight, as well as the public nuisance hearing that you're scheduled to hear, you can hear from staff, you can hear from the applicants, you can hear from the public, but and then you can deliberate and you can discuss, you can ask questions, but the actual vote, the official vote, cannot be taken until, and you all have agreed to meet again tomorrow night. So you will have to table those public hearing actions, and then at the end of the council meeting, you all have to help me remember, we're not going to adjourn the meeting. You have to recess the meeting to tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. And that gives people who may be zooming in or listening in the opportunity to submit written comments, and they can submit those to me via my email or by dropping off written comments up until tomorrow at 6 p.m. And then I would read those, any comments that are received to you, and they become part of the record, and then you could proceed with making your official votes.
Okay, all right.
But did I leave out anything? Was that okay?
Who did you think? Okay, thumbs up.
I'm trying to get it off mute, but you did everything perfectly. That's exactly the procedure.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Anne Marie. At this time, do we have any that's signed up to speak that's here tonight?
Yes, we
We do, okay. So I'll ask all of those that signed up to speak and the developers, if they will, to stand up and take the oath. Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Please be seated. Okay, next we'll have the presentation for staff report from our Director of Planning, Elizabeth Bryant.
Yeah, we take the oath. You just stand there, I suppose, and take the oath. There's several people back here that.
Mayor, you can administer the oath when each speaker comes up from the
Okay.
overflow room.
Did you hear that? When each speaker comes in from the overflow room, and we'll administer the oath for each person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. And I'm going to take my mask off because, as y'all recall, during these permit hearings, I usually have a lot that I have to read into the record, and it's just a little bit easier if you don't mind. Again, thank you for flexibility with meeting this way and accommodating the permit application. We've got several folks here from the development team, both in person and virtually. We have got Jordan Brewer and Kevin Dean here in person, and I believe I see Trey Hart, Marshall Hart, and then they also have someone from their engineering team, Danielle, who is, I don't think she's visible on this screen, but she's going to do some of the screen sharing with us tonight so that you can see, and the folks in the overflow room will be able to see renderings and plans. And now I'll begin the sort of dry part, and I'll go over my staff report. Some of it's going to be verbatim, and then some of it I'll add in a few more details. So tonight before you, you have conditional use permit case 20-01 from HR Acquisitions LLC. The current property owners are Quality Oil and Company LLC, Quentin Edward Byron Parker, Marion H. Cross, and Norfolk Southern Railway Company. The application is a conditional use permit to construct a retail store and pharmacy, CVS, with drive-through in the Highway Commercial District. It's located at 801 North Broad Street, and that address is the actual Shell Station property and the specific cited location for the CVS. There's two additional parcels which you'll see a little bit later. The size of the property is 1.12 acres. Again, it's zoned highway commercial. It houses the former Shell station, a railroad right-of-way which has been abandoned, a brick residence and a wood frame residence, and one vacant lot. To the north, property is developed. It's zoned highway commercial, which is the businesses along North Broad Street, and R10 residential, which are the neighborhoods off of Batham Road, including Hawthorne Road. To the south, the property is developed. It's zoned highway commercial. That's where you find Walgreens, Dairy Queen, etc. To the east, the property is developed. It's zoned highway commercial. That's again North Broad Street businesses, and R5 residential, which is the North Edenton neighborhood. To the west, there is property that is undeveloped. That's the vacant lot next to the former home owned by Mr. Martin Parker. Also developed highway commercial, which is the Edenton Eye Care building, the agricultural building, and R5 residential, which is Morris Circle.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
So beside Martin's, you know, all those houses that go up, that, are they all, is that residential or is that going out towards the shopping center?
Yes, that is actually residential.
Okay.
It's about 10 driveway cuts that front directly on the Virginia Road, and all but one that I think we rezoned a few years ago for a potential medical office
Okay.
are zoned residential.
Okay.
The existing land use classification of 801 North Broad Street is residential and commercial. The future land use classification of the property is commercial and medium high density residential. The 2018 Edenton Land Use Plan denotes the following Town of Edenton land use and development concerns. 1, to encourage population growth. 2, to promote economic development. 3, to provide recreation and open space. And 4, to foster housing choice. Further, based on these stated concerns, the land use plan gives specific goal statements with regard to the promotion of economic development. Goal E2 states that the town shall promote the establishment of a broad range of new commercial uses in the town, both in the downtown core and on the periphery near the Highway 17, new Interstate 87 interchanges, with particular emphasis on grocery stores and restaurants. Goal E3 is to develop a strategy for expanding entrepreneurship opportunities in and around downtown Edenton. Goal E4 is to develop a strategy for expanding job opportunities in the healthcare, tourism, and vocational training sectors. Goal E5 is to ensure that the town's development ordinance is conducive to emerging economic trends such as telecommuting and cottage industry entrepreneurship. The most applicable goal statements are Goal E2 and Goal E4. The land use plan identifies the following policy objectives related to these goals. The Town of Edenton, Policy E3, encourages new commercial uses to locate in any commercial area within the town. In particular, the development of grocery stores and restaurants is encouraged. Policy E5, the town promotes the expansion of the healthcare sector as a means to create jobs and better serve residents of all ages. There's no zoning history on record. The property was developed most likely prior to our zoning ordinance adoption. The applicable regulations of the UDO are Article 4, Permits and Final Plat Approval, Article 9, Zoning Districts and Zoning Maps, Article 10, Permissible Uses and Permissible Use Table, Article 11, Supplementary Use Regulations, and Appendix M, Architectural Standards. Special information about the property. Municipal water and sewer services are available but will need to be connected. The property is located within the town corporate limits and town protection services are available. The subject property has approximately 230 feet of frontage on North Broad Street and approximately 376 feet of frontage on Virginia Road. Again, it currently houses the vacant Shell station and various other structures. The next page of the staff report shows the highlighted property in question. You can see where the Shell station is at the corner of Broad and Virginia Road. Sorry, I wish I'd screen shared this. And then there's the railroad right-of-way, a vacant lot, and the former Parker residence. The application before you is requesting to construct a retail store and pharmacy with drive-through in the Highway Commercial District. The Town of Edenton's UDO allows for the construction of new drugstores and pharmacies with drive-throughs through the conditional use permit process in the Highway Commercial Zoning District. The town's technical review committee met in April 2020 to review the project, and all applicable concerns from staff have been addressed in the plans submitted to you for review. And I believe also included in your packet were specific statements from Chief Bass and Colin Ryan regarding EMS and fire safety. The conditional use permit process requires applicants to specify the exact proposed use of the land and allows town council to place restrictions on the actual development. This is an appropriate planning mechanism. When granting a conditional use permit, reasonable requirements may be added to the permit in addition to those specified below by staff and suggested by the planning board. A public informational meeting was conducted by the applicant and hosted by the town of Edenton on August 12th, 2020 to provide general information to residents in the area regarding the application. Additionally, a neighborhood meeting was organized by the residents of the area on August 24th to the same effect and was attended by town staff. The Edenton Planning Board held a public meeting on August 25th, 2020 to review the conditional use permit application. You have a copy of their minutes, I believe, in your packet as well. The Planning Board recommended approval of the application as presented with staff recommended conditions and additional conditions that are listed below regarding further study of the closure of Batham and Virginia Road intersection and a sidewalk for improved pedestrian accessibility to Virginia Road. Prior to approval, the town council must ensure that the development at its proposed location meets the following criteria. 1, it will not endanger the public health or safety. 2, it will not injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. 3, it will be in harmony with the area in which it is located. And 4, it will be in conformity with the land use plan, thoroughfare plan, or other plan officially adopted by the town council. The applicant has addressed these conditions in the attached application and specifically in that statement of justifications letter that was included in your packet. Officials with HR Acquisition and the engineers from Kinley Horn and Associates are present. I've introduced them. The proposed use is compatible with the Edenton Future Land Use Map. The future land use map identifies this parcel and the surrounding area as suitable for commercial use. As shown on the map that's included with my staff report, part of the property that is which is to the left or west of the blue star and is being reserved by the developer but not used for the CVS project is classified as medium high density residential. That occupies about 20% of the town's planning jurisdiction and delineates lands where predominant land use is higher density single-family and multifamily development, as well as supporting land uses. The predominant portion of the property, and that which is to be occupied by the proposed CVS development, is classified in the future land use map as commercial. Areas classified as commercial occupy just over 3% of the town's planning jurisdiction and are concentrated along Virginia Road, US 17, and North Broad Street. These areas are anticipated to accommodate some of the more intensive land uses found in the town's planning jurisdiction. Before I continue with the rest of the dry part, Danielle, if you can hear me and you wouldn't mind screen sharing the first site plan that you all presented to the town back in, I think that was March, perhaps.
Yes, I just need, the host needs to disable screen sharing or to make me a co-host, so I can share that.
Yes, it's a whole new.
Working now?
She should be good now.
Can she do it now?
Okay, yes, she started screen sharing. Okay, and is it there? Great.
Yep.
So, in particular, this was the first map or site plan that came to the town staff back in March. And if I could point out to you the relocation or realignment of Batham Road and the CVS site. So, do we have the little remote? Sorry, I'm sorry. Hate to point. But you see where the red arrows are. That's Virginia Road. There's a right turn in, left turn in arrow, and then Badham Road is over here on the left side of the screen. So you see that the road is located approximately where it is now. It's adjusted somewhat, but you should also note that there's a driveway entrance proposed directly off of Badham Road into the CVS parking lot rather than from Virginia Road itself. There's still a North Broad Street access, but there is not a Virginia Road access. Okay, so this is the area I'm talking about in particular. This is Badham Road. This is Virginia Road. This is North Broad Street. This area was of concern to staff in particular because of the increased amount of vehicular traffic that would be using this intersection to access CVS. If you're coming south on Virginia Road, that's most likely your point of entry for the property, rather than going all the way to the light, turning, and then coming up here. We were concerned about the impact of increased traffic exiting on Badham Road to the residential district and the street capacity to handle that type of increase in traffic. So Danielle, if you don't mind, if it's possible to share the proposed plan. So staff asked for them to send us a plan that showed the closure of Badham Road because of the concerns we had with this plan, but also with concerns that had been brought to our attention about using the street for cut-through traffic, speeding, just that type of intense use on a road that is really narrow and small and better accommodating for residential traffic. So you can see on this plan, this is where the proposed stop or end turnaround for Badham Road is. The very last property that's a private residential property is here. It's that kind of triangular shaped property. And then this is Virginia Road, and this over here is North Broad Street. So the entrance has been moved a little bit. It's pretty close to where the entrance to Badham Road is now, but that becomes just driveway access for the CVS, and also on North Broad Street, and Badham Road is closed with a turnaround. Okay, I just felt like that might help illustrate some of the background. Now back to the dry part. All applicable regulations of the UDO and all staff concerns that are applicable to this development have been identified. Please consider the following recommendations and conditions. As I stated earlier, the planning board recommends approval with the following suggested conditions and with the following note or caveat. At their meeting, we did not show them the two maps. They saw the one that is proposed for this permit application, not the one that was presented back in March. And they heard a lot of comment about, with concern about the closure of Badham Road, but also the impacts that closure may have to the intersections with 2nd Street in Badham and North Broad Street and so forth. So they recommended that the council seek further information regarding the traffic impacts of the closure of Badham and Virginia Road intersection, specifically existing and projected traffic conditions, tractor-trailer access and maneuverability. That was mainly for that, if a tractor-trailer came all the way down to the end, would they have a time turning around in that stop, or can they make the turn, left turn onto 2nd Street or 3rd Street to get back out to North Broad Street? They also suggested that you consider necessary improvements to 2nd and 3rd Streets and the repaving and widening of Badham Road, and wanted that information provided to you all for your consideration. They also suggested the first condition listed, sidewalk or pedestrian access shall be installed along the northern or western boundary of the CVS site to provide connectivity for foot traffic from Badham to Virginia Road. So that would be, here's the end of Badham Road, so some sort of connectivity for folks to walk if they so desire to Virginia Road. So whether that be through the CVS site or at the planning board meeting, the developers said that they would consider any type of pedestrian access to link the Virginia Road, but that would be something that we
Are we
flesh
talking
out.
about 155 feet? Is that the 155?
About, yes, about 150 feet from the end of the stop to the sidewalk here on Virginia Road, about 150 feet. Number 2, the final landscape plan shall be reviewed and approved by the Town of Edenton Tree Committee. They have reviewed most drafts, but they would need to approve the final. 3, prior to the filing of a final plat, the developer shall have said plat reviewed and signed by the land use administrator according to the UDO requirements. They're doing a recombination of these lots, so that is standard procedure. 4, all necessary traffic improvements, utility installations and connections, that's electric, water, and sewer built to town standard, and drainage or stormwater detention improvements shall be installed by and all associated and required fees borne by the developer. That's just stating that they are responsible for the cost of developing the property. 5, stormwater and drainage, and that's their stormwater and erosion control permit shall be meet DOT and DEQ standards. You can see right here, this is like a retention area plan, and they'll speak more to that, I'm sure. All details and improvements, including but not limited to facade, signage, infrastructure, sidewalks, landscaping, street lighting shall be installed or constructed according to the UDO requirements. So those are the 7 staff conditions, staff and planning board suggested conditions, and then also the note at the top from the planning board about traffic in particular that we'd like to pass on to you. The last part of my staff report is in the event that you decide to approve the permit, so this would come tomorrow night when you vote, we need to basically append this statement or read this statement into the record as part of your decision that it's consistent with our land use plan. That's a new state law required for all local governments. And before I turn it over to the developers, do you all have any questions of me at this time?
Just one. What was the consensus of your informational meeting with the landowners in that area?
At both of our informational meetings, the residents that were present spoke in favor of the CVS project. They also spoke mostly in favor of the road closure with concerns about some stormwater issues that they've experienced on Baton Road a little bit further down, closer to the 2nd Street intersection. And then the business owners on the street, so those Halsey's is one example, Heating and
Whitley,
Air.
Whitley.
Ari Whitley's Heating and Air, and
REL.
then there's also the peanut factory, Live Work that is present. Those folks expressed concern about the road closure limiting traffic to their businesses, and also asked about their delivery vehicles being able to, right now they come in maybe on Paradise Road and go to Baton Road and then just keep going to Virginia Road. Well, they would have to obviously turn off on either 3rd or 2nd Street if the end of Baton Road is closed. So that's mainly what we heard at those meetings.
Elizabeth, so my understanding is we're taking 2nd and 3rd Street, closing Baton Road being proposed, and 2nd and 3rd will be the entrance.
Well, there's 3 points of entry onto Baton Road other than the Virginia Road intersection. There's the North Broad Street and 2nd Street intersection, which connects to Baton Road, the North Broad Street and 3rd Street intersection, which connects to Baton Road, 1 block over, and then the Paradise Road and Baton Road intersection. So those are 3 access points for vehicles, even if the Baton and Virginia intersection is closed.
When we talk about vehicles, are we talking about heavy 18-wheeler traffic?
To my knowledge, the delivery vehicles are substantial in size, but not necessarily 18-wheeler size. And they may occasionally be,
Box trucks.
and they may occasionally get an 18-wheeler. those businesses are not, grocery stores and larger businesses typically get the inventory off of a large 18-wheeler truck. Yes, sir.
I know we have representatives here, but could you explain a little bit just about HR acquisitions and their role, how that works?
Sure. I'll do a brief
I know we
a
have.
brief mention of it, but I'm sure they'd be happy to chime in. So they are a development company,
Okay.
and they are pursuing this project on behalf of CVS.
Okay.
And then Kimley Horn is the engineering company that was hired by HR Acquisitions to draw up the plans for this project.
I guess this would be probably a question for HR acquisition. Is this pretty much a standard model for CVS?
I would ask them.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Does the state design the roadway?
The engineering company has designed the proposed entrances onto Virginia Road and North Broad Street for CVS, but North Carolina Department of Transportation will have to approve those. So they're going to review the design and say, yes, it meets our standards, or no, you need to change X, Y, and Z, or it can be right turn only, or left turn only, or full access. So DOT will review it, yes.
Okay.
One other question. Go ahead.
I was just, go ahead, you go ahead.
How is it the bioretention basin? Is that like a drainage pool, like they have at Walgreens? What is that?
No, luckily, and I'll let them talk more about this, but luckily the state, and maybe it's just engineering, has improved somewhat, and it's more of like a dry retention swell versus like a wet retention pond.
Okay.
So when you did the Taco Bell review,
Yeah.
what is in the rear of that development near the grocery store
Yeah.
end, that's similar. It's a dry retention area.
Okay. And where is that located? This.
Right here, this little dashed line.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there's sidewalks on Broad Street, and I've had a hard
And
time
Virginia
seeing
Road.
this.
Yes, and the landscape plan might be a little
Okay,
easier
all right,
to
that's
look at.
I mean, I got lots of questions, but I wouldn't quite yet.
But the landscape plan shows the sidewalks and all that stuff, but yes, so this is the intersection of Virginia and Broad Street, and the sidewalk comes along here and continues on. And then this is North Broad Street, and the sidewalk, of course, goes right along there. And they would be required to, make full connections, with existing sidewalk systems.
And you want us to wait and, like, listen to the developer, then make our own suggestions if we have some? Is that the more appropriate?
I think so,
Okay, all
yes.
right, that's fine.
Just one more question, Liz. Did the planning board mention anything about sidewalks from Batham to Second to connect with
There was
Broad Street?
There was some mention of that in the discussion. It wasn't something that they recommended as a
Okay.
condition, but they did ask if that was planned in our existing street improvement or street repaving plan, and it's not. There's not sidewalks there, and there's no curb and gutter on Batham either, so, it would just be a little slightly different sidewalk construction project.
When we talk about widening Batham, you can only do so much there right now. I guess 2 feet more would be as far as you could go. Is that?
We'd have to see what our right-of-way is along Baton Road.
It's pretty narrow, yeah.
Okay.
I was just gonna follow up, the town engineer who's helping us with our street repair and resurfacing, reviewed the intersection at Batham and Second and Batham and Third, and there is enough right-of-way to make, those intersections wider. And also, the Public Works Director has requested that if that work is done, that curb and gutter be put around the stormwater infrastructure to protect not only the catch basins, but then, and also to expand a little bit, really curb and gutter around the radius of the turns to protect or prevent trucks from turning too far into property owners' yards. So that would be our plan if you all were to approve it.
Any other further questions for Elizabeth? If not, Elizabeth, thank you very much. It's a very detailed report. Thank you.
It's long.
And at this time, we'll call on the developers team to present their application. We have Mr. Jordan Brewer and Mr. Kevin Dean. They're the civil engineers for the developer, and they're here tonight. Welcome, gentlemen, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're happy to be here. My name is Jordan Brewer. I work with Kimley Horton Associates out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Elizabeth did a great job presenting this, honestly. I only have a little bit to add to everything that she's given to you guys. But if you have any further questions or anything, I'd love to answer them for you. So, as you can see here, this is at the corner of Virginia Road and Broad Street here in Edenton. This is where the vacant Shell gas station is right now. She mentioned a little bit of the infrastructure that I want to give you a bit more detail on. The buyer retention area, it's basically just going to be a small little grassed area. You won't see stormwater in there except like right after it rains. And so within 24 hours, the water should infiltrate down into the ground, and it should just be a small grassed area. You won't even recognize it as a stormwater system unless it had just rained. We are also showing permeable pavement in parking spaces. You can see where there's rocks that are shown in the areas of the parking spaces, which is required by the Town of Edenton Code to show, and that will also improve infiltration of the stormwater into the ground and improve the water quality in the area, stormwater quality in the area. We are also showing there is an existing railroad right-of-way and existing ditch here on this site. So we'll be bypassing that. We'll take the stormwater from the north side of the site and run it through the site through pipes and connecting it into the NCDOT right-of-way on the south. Similarly, we're doing that with the sanitary sewer and the water line that is on the rear of the site. So we'll be upgrading those lines or taking the lines that are there, installing new lines, and reconnecting it back in. As far as landscaping is concerned, we have 15-foot landscape buffers to the rear of the property in order to meet the requirements for the code against residential property. And then we have streetscapes along both Virginia Road and Broad Street, which will provide a nice little entry into the town of Edenton off of Virginia and Broad there. I believe that is really the additional information that I'd like to give to you guys. One thing that I did want to share is on the statement of justifications. Under Fighting 2, I don't know if you guys have read these in depth, but there are 4 statement of justifications that we are required, or findings of fact that we are required to provide as a part of the CUP hearing for this property. Our statement says, at the end of Finding 2, the closing of Batham Road will also provide an existing residential properties on Batham Road, a more private residence with minimal traffic at the end of the road. Just an additional item that I wanted to bring your attention to the benefits of closing Batham Road. And Kevin Dean is also here with us. He's our traffic engineer and will share a bit about some NCDOT input and then also some driveway information.
Good evening, Kevin Dean, Kinley Warren. As Jordan said, I helped prepare the traffic assessment for the site. So a couple of things we look at when we look at a site. One is trip generation, how many trips are expected at the site. And when you look at the CVS pharmacy, not a high generating use. It doesn't meet thresholds for a full traffic analysis. But particularly when you compare it to the Shell gas station that was there previously, those two uses generate a very similar amount of traffic. So in terms of increases or decreases, not expecting a significant increase in site traffic, so not expecting this site to cause congestion. Another thing that was critical about this site layout is the driveway access. So as has been mentioned, there's a driveway on Virginia, and there's also one on North Broad Street aligning with First Street. So the existing site today, I believe, has one driveway on Virginia that's within about 50 feet of the stop bar for the left turn movement from Virginia onto North Broad. And then when you're on North Broad, there are two driveways within 150 feet. And we talked with DOT, district engineer, and division traffic, and they have said that driveway configuration would not be approved today. There are too many the number of access points and the proximity to the signal do not meet state standards. They do not like those existing driveway locations. So they said they're significantly happier with our driveway, which we've reduced the number on Broad from 2 to 1, so that reduces both vehicular and pedestrian conflicts, but it also pushes that driveway away from the signal, which provides better spacing, gets those people at the back of any queue that might be on Broad Street, and it also aligns with First Street, which is critical because that helps reduce conflicts when you have offset driveways and how people might be turning out there. So those two items, the trip generation being comparable and the improvement in site access, we think are big benefits of the site. Now when you look at the Batham Road closure, we have compared NCDOT daily traffic volumes on Broad and Virginia and compared those volumes to capacity standards that NCDOT's Transportation Planning Branch sets for those type of facilities. Both of those roads, from a daily traffic perspective, operating well below capacity of those roadways. So we're comfortable that traffic shifting onto Broad or Virginia, if Batham Road was closed, isn't going to cause those roads to exceed the capacity that's set. So when you look at that, we think that from the daily traffic perspective is an appropriate closure. And as Jordan mentioned, certainly reducing traffic past these residences, particularly at the end of Batham Road if Batham Road is closed. So we think that there are a lot of benefits to that closure. I'd be happy to answer questions now or later in the process if that's preferred.
I have a question. I don't understand that behind that filling station, there's a big ditch. What happened to that ditch?
That would be
That's what I was gonna ask him, but he said,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's beyond me, so I'll let Jordan speak to that if I can.
So we will have, I believe it's a 36-inch concrete pipe that basically we're going to put in place of the ditch and route it underneath our pavement. You can see where Danielle's moving her cursor right there. The easement runs on the west side of the building and then connects into what is NCDOT drainage on Virginia Road.
I noticed the ditch on the right-hand side of Paradise Road has water in it, and they cleaned that out. But I can't understand where that ditch is going. Go across 32, go back to across Paradise Road.
So we actually did an analysis of all of that. So I think it's about 21.5 acres that runs to this ditch right here. And so that's where we came up with the size of the 36-inch pipe in order to make sure that there is enough volume that is generated from a given stormwater event. So the 25-year storm is what we end up calling it, which is about, I think it's a 4% chance every time it rains is a 25-year storm. And so the stormwater piping that we have is a 36-inch pipe that would then run, as it's drawn now, that Danielle drew on the map here, run from the north and run through 2 junction boxes or manholes and connect into the existing drainage, which is in CDOT Virginia Road. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, I like the placement of it. I mean, I think that looks good. I think it fits well in the streetscape. I am concerned about closing Batham Road. I mean, I have some serious concerns about that. There is enough room. I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for closing it, but I'm just saying I am concerned about it. There is enough room if we decide to keep it open to move the road somewhere else. Is that right?
There is room on the west side of the site
Okay.
to relocate and realign the road. Now, we have not done a full analysis on an alignment and grading concerns that would need to go into effect in order to be 100% positive that it will work on the west side of the property.
Okay.
I don't think there will be any problems with it, but we would have to analyze everything that comes along with that.
And are you the design guy? Are you the guy I talked to about design?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna have a hard time voting for it as it looks today. I think with a little bit of work, it could really be much better, taller, more articulation.
Architectural. So
Yes,
we have
architectural.
we have Terry Douglas,
Okay.
who is on the phone, or she said she would join us
And
this
I don't
evening.
know whether this is the time to do that or not, but I mean, you know, I think
Yeah,
that,
that's a question I had. Could we talk about that?
Terry, are you on the call?
Daniel show the rendering.
Hi, good evening, I'm here.
Hey, Terry.
so Terry, my concern is it looks like a CVS everywhere else, from, you know, every other place. And I'd like to see a lot more articulation. I'd like to see it taller. I'd like to see it go up maybe even 5 more feet. And then put places in it where it has, if not windows, indentations that look like windows, and fenestration, you know, much more of that, so that it looks like a building. I'm not saying it needs to be, you know, phony colony, but that it has more, it just looks more appealing. We did that with our police department here, and the first draft from the architects looked like this, and in the end, we ended up with a great building. And, I mean, I think that's very doable, looking at this plan, and I'd like to see us do that.
Yes, I can understand and I appreciate that. I don't know if Trey or Marshall want to address this, but this is our standard prototypical 9K prototype that CVS has been used as our national brand. There is some articulation that we have done already vertically that can be addressed. We can look at, you know, the glazing amounts as well that we would have to address with CVS and with the developer as well. Materials we did examine with the planning review with Elizabeth, and it was suggested that some of the materials, such as vintage brick, was incorporated into the building, which we did do. We have added more glazing with some graphics as far as way the merchandise is laid out. But there is a point where we can review again with the developer and with CVS as far as any vertical or horizontal articulation.
Just, I was looking at one yesterday at Wrightsville Beach, which really has a bad traffic problem. And I mean, it looks completely different than this. And I think with a little bit of work, this can be something that we'll be proud of for generations. And I'd like to see, I've had a hard time getting pictures of this. What is the material below the CVS? What is that material? That gray material? You see where it says CVS Pharmacy? You know, what is that? What's that stuff made out of?
Okay, so we have a run of glazing that is beneath the CVS sign band, and for graphic illustration, we have shown on the second elevation on Broad Street, it kind of looks like that's that white piece there. That would be showing where CVS graphics would be displayed because of what the merchandise is behind. But any of the gray spaces there, that would be our current glazing requirements that we meet code.
So
Thank you, Danielle.
I don't know what that means.
this is windows, so glazing
Yeah, that's
is
windows.
Yeah.
This is windows, and they've got display shelves here, so that's like a applique on the window. And then, are you also asking about
Yeah,
this material?
That's what I was trying to figure out what that is.
So below the windows, there's a slightly different color, stone or some sort of facade material.
It's not cinder block, is it?
No,
No,
it's So,
Beachy, huh?
No, it's a vintage brick.
Okay.
and then
Okay.
You
this
say
is,
it better now.
this is the wood. If you just maybe detail a little bit about the materials used, it's much easier to see zoomed in like this.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So wood siding. Sorry, my glasses.
So you have vintage brick, which is the gray. You have Illumination Series, Benjamin Moore, North Creek Brown,
Which is wood.
which is
or-
wood, and then
Which
vintage
is what,
wood.
yes.
This is a cedar color, also wood. This is the material, is this sort of white,
Textured.
texture?
That is the white ephes, and
Yeah.
we have that on one of the facades, and that also carries around on our sign bandage.
So that's,
Is there any way to get
The,
is there any way
bump up
before we
drive-through.
vote on this to get a improved, figure out what they can do for us and ask to have that done, make it taller, make it more fenestration, make it some more articulation,
certain,
and make it look like it fits into the neighborhood.
you all can request any type of modification that you'd like to see to the site plan, to the building elevation, any of that. You can request that before voting. You can say that it must be in place at the time of permit. There's several options you have to, what you.
I mean, I'm not trying to hold it up, because I'm totally for this project. I just think it just needs to look better. It looks like it came right off of, Apex, Garner, one of those places, and not here. And we're trying with these standards to have something that looks a little bit like our police station.
So, excuse me, this is Marshall Hart. I am president of Hart Red. I'm kind of where the buck stops if you want to holler at somebody. But we're working on behalf of CDS. I apologize if y'all can't see me. I was stuck on I-40 for about, I'm just walked in my home. I was trying to get home. This is one of the days when I wish I still lived in eastern North Carolina, but I don't. But I've been in traffic for about an hour and a half. This is CDS's standard prototype building with some upgrades based upon needs that we have with the city. Certainly, we want to be a good neighbor. This building is vastly different from some of the older CVS drugstores, and we've been building CVS's in eastern North Carolina for about 15 years. We work at their behest and at the behest of the city, so we certainly want to build something that everybody likes, but certainly that's within the parameters of what CVS will allow us to do with their logos and what they want their buildings to look like. So we are certainly happy to work with the city to make this as visibly appealing as we can.
And I'm not saying get rid of the logo or anything like that. I mean, I would like to see it just
No higher.
taller and I don't like standard buildings. I mean, I don't want to drive down the road and see this somewhere else. I think we need to have something that, and I think people will go to it if it's prettier, especially in Edenton. I mean, we're completely different than the rest of eastern North Carolina.
How many square feet is this building gonna be?
It's about 9,600 square feet, a little bit less.
I have a question. Is it normal to be right across the street from another chain pharmacy? Is that normal? I see it all the time. I just-
What is going to be the parking capacity to this store?
There will be 46 parking spaces proposed.
Okay.
46.
So it is a normal thing to do.
It is, you see it often.
I'll answer that question because that's probably the question. I've developed over 200 CVS drugstores throughout the southeast, and that's probably the question I get asked more than any other question. It's why they go across the street from each other. And the really short answer is that normally it's the best intersection in town, and that's why they want to go across the street from each other and don't want to be located in a secondary location to their
Ms. Marshall, I apologize for not introducing you earlier. I skipped over that, and I apologize for that, but we certainly appreciate you and CVS wanting to make an investment in our town.
Oh, I've only been working on relocating the CVS store for 9.5 years. So, they've been on me. I've been through 3 real estate vice presidents who've hollered at me about not getting a new store needed. So hopefully I can make up for that if we can get this worked out.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for?
A couple questions on safety. If you're coming down Virginia and you're headed east, there'll be a turn lane where you can turn into the CVS, right? That's now a turn lane for Batham with that.
There's no dedicated turn lane, but I believe there are 2 lanes headed south on Broad Street. Is that what?
He's asking about Virginia, are you asking
On
about
Virginia?
Broad Street or Virginia
Yeah,
Road?
if you're on Virginia Road and you're headed toward Broad and you turn into the CVS, would there be a turn lane there?
Is it a turn?
So there's already, so the left turn lane that already serves traffic,
Yeah.
left turn lane that already serves traffic onto Batham will just serve left turns into the driveway. So it's not a lane dedicated just to the CVS driveway, because I believe that lane continues to Broad Street the next 150 feet, 200 feet, whatever that distance is. But they won't be turning out of a single, there's a separate left and right turn lane as you approach the signal. And so traffic will just make left turns into the site from the existing left turn.
What about if you're going north on Broad and you turn in after the light? Is there room there to put a turn lane, or is it too narrow?
I believe it's too narrow. There's not one stripe today, but that hasn't been proposed just based on the relatively low volume of traffic that's generated by the site. A good question.
What was the fellow's name?
Marshall.
Marshall, okay. Did you do the one on Eastwood Road in Wilmington? Across from Landfall?
East. No, sir, I did not. That store's was done by Zimmer Development a long time ago. That was before I started in the CVS program.
It's not that old.
We just did one in Southport recently. That's probably the latest one that we've done. But we've done some with some architectural upgrades. And again, I work at the behest of CVS, and so I want to make them happy and make you happy. And in general, CVS will work with most communities because they want to fit in, and they obviously want everybody in town to like them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Shop there.
Okay, well, could you send us some of those images?
Those designs?
Well, you'll have to get, yeah, I can get, we can get the architectural firms up. Nor drew every one of them. I think, have y'all done all the ones that we've done in Eastern North Carolina?
Yeah, I believe we've done a majority of them. So we can always adjust and play with the materials on the building to bring it into more of that community and what's surrounding the building and the streetscape.
Okay. Hey, we'll send you some pictures of
Yeah,
our police
why don't
station.
we get them some examples of things? Yeah, let's send them some pictures of other things we've done in some coastal towns in North Carolina as well.
Or Virginia or South Carolina. I mean, if you work there.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions of the developers or the engineers? Either one?
I got one more, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit concerned about if we do close Batham Road, that the house next door will then become, we've had some not great luck with commercial sites and the housing next door. And I was wondering if y'all would consider putting some type of a covenant on that house so that it wouldn't be torn down, and so that the next door neighbor then doesn't have a big commercial beside them. I mean, I don't think it matters if it's commercial. I mean, if they do something in that residence, but if you keep that house and keep it fixed up, sort of like what we did with Southern Bank, although it didn't work as well.
Yeah, first house next.
Yeah, the first house, and you've got that house, and I think that, one of the staff told me that you weren't particularly concerned about that, and that way, we know that it's not gonna become something else for the next next door neighbor to have a big, commercial enterprise beside them. You'll still have the same scale, and if it wants to be a shop or something, that's fine. You just do it in kind of in a residential form.
Are you talking about the first house on the?
I'm talking about the one Martin Parker. Yeah,
Martin Parker.
yeah, that one. Because if I were on that street of houses on Broad or on, I guess it's Virginia Road, I would be concerned about what's coming next. If I were those people, I think then they quit investing in their homes, and we all of a sudden get something we don't want. So
Well, wouldn't you all have to approve it if we wanted to do anything on that property other than residential? Isn't it zoned residential right now?
Martin Parker's property is owned highway commercial, so that,
Okay.
yeah.
And I mean, all we would do is want some type of covenant some other group that would say, we're going to keep this house up, we're not going to tear it down. It could be, I mean, it's actually an historic house. It could be Preservation North Carolina or somebody like that. Just a buffer for our town against continued commercial intrusion into residential neighborhoods. I'm for this project. I don't want y'all to think I'm not, but I think it's just a safeguard because I'm gonna be here the rest of my life. I mean, I hope my children are gonna be here too. So, I think it's important for us to get it right while we're doing this. I mean, y'all have been working on this a long time. This is really our first viewing of it tonight.
Well, I'm not trying to be difficult anyway. We certainly want to be good neighbors in Edenton like we are everywhere. I don't know what the physical condition of that house is right now. I've been told that it is in serious disrepair. And so I'm hesitant to sign myself up for having to maintain a house that I don't know, and maybe shame on me for not knowing what it is, but I haven't been in the house in quite some time. So I don't know, does it have historical significance? I think it was built in the 20s. Is that right?
It's in Butchko's book, so it does.
I beg your pardon?
It does, yes.
Okay, well, then I apologize because I'm ignorant and on this subject. And so I'm not in the business of tearing down old homes that have historical significance.
Well, you can donate it to a nonprofit. I mean, something like that. I just would like to see it saved in some way, because that's what starts happening in the neighborhoods when you get big commercial coming in. Then the fringes go. Then if we're able to stop that, then I think it'll give the other people that are investing money in those houses further up that street more reason to keep investing.
Well, certainly y'all can do whatever you want to do, and you can restrict me in whatever way you want to. We'll either live with it or not. But I can't give you an affirmation that I can maintain that home because I don't know what condition it's in. I mean, just as frank with you as I know how to be. And I have no intention of tearing it down. Frankly, we need a very small piece of that property. So our intention, frankly, is to put that house back on the market and probably sell it as a residence, subject to whatever the town.
Well, that you can just put a covenant in there. That works great. I mean, that's exactly what we like. And you just put a covenant on it that it'll be sold as a residence and not torn down.
But I mean, are you saying that we put something in the deed where the next person that buys it?
Yeah. We do that all the time here.
Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, then next will be the public hearing on the proposed conditional use permit. And staff will escort any members of the public in the overflow who wish to speak.
Mayor, while we're waiting for the public to come from the overflow comments from people who are participating remotely, that they will be permitted to submit written comments to you, or actually they would send them to me, and then they will be read to you tomorrow, so that people can, who are listening, if they have questions or comments, are free to send those to me, bring them to town hall. You can email them, or call me, and I can work out a way for you to get those comments to me. But that the way the policy and the way the statutes are written is that the council has to give opportunity for comment to be heard at least 24 hours prior to the next action.
All right, thank you, Anne Marie, and you can get those to Anne Marie anytime up until 6 o'clock tomorrow. We will be reconvening the meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock and making a decision. Okay?
You need to issue your,
If you can.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Give us your name and where you reside, please.
I'm Anita Lane. I live in Plymouth County, but I own Halsey's Lawn and Garden on Baton Road. Did I begin to speak?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Microphone.
Well, I have this nice little speech prepared, but y'all bear with me because I'm not a speaker. I just want to say thank y'all for letting me, for hearing me out tonight. As a business owner, I welcome progress and growth in Edenton. It's very important, as in Chowan County and Plymouth and the surrounding counties. Because anyway, regarding CVS, I think it's a wonderful thing that they're coming. I know they have suffered for many years due to the decline in the current location they're in, located at the shopping center. But in the same respect, you're cutting my lifeline off if you close Baton Road. Since August the 24th, every customer that we've had to come in the store, we've asked them to sign if they came in on Virginia Road to access our on Baton Road or Paradise. And out of 236 customers, 192 used the Virginia Road exit onto Baton Road to patronize my store. So only 44 entered from Paradise. I have at least 2 freight trucks that come to my store each week. Whitley, I know, has just about 1 a day. And I'm not sure about the wash house, how many they have to come in. If anybody ever ridden an 18-wheeler before? Yeah. My uncle was, he had a business, and I've rode with him many of a day. There's no way an 18-wheeler can turn on 2nd Street or the other street onto Broad Street safely. I mean, even at the intersection now at Broad and Virginia, I've been at the stoplight and had to back up my car because they're trying to make a turn just to go down Broad Street. So that's one of my big concerns, is where they are going to access the turnaround. Because between the Coach House Inn, I mean, you don't hardly have any street there as it is on 2nd Street. So, I mean, how are you going to widen the road? That's one of my concerns. Then, you're talking about the crime and the speeding on Baton Road. Since the new ownership at White Castle, the crime has drastically lowered. And I know this for a fact because I was a frequent caller to the police. And I'm sure the police chief could give you those numbers that crime has really gone down. Speeding, you don't have speeding anywhere in town. I know a lot of the parents at the ballpark, when they are there, the kids, I know it's a safety issue, and I can understand that. We've even had them come by the store going like crazy, and we just look at them like, you're crazy. Put up speed bumps. I mean, this happens. Put them periodically. Let's see what else I was. The other concern is for just the neighborhood there. If you block Baton Road off, what if they need medical emergency assistance? You block Baton Road off. Now they've got to wait at the intersection. Hopefully, maybe there's a green light, but you got to wait for all the traffic to stop to let that medical or emergency vehicle through. You know, most Southerners are respectful and we pull over and let them through. But we all know that minutes and seconds matter in a person's life. It can mean life or death. And if you've cut that intersection off, if you cut Baton Road off, they've got to come around, go to 2nd Street, then turn to get back into the neighborhood. That's a big consideration to really think about for the people in that neighborhood. And I also just ask if, you know, like I said, I'm all about progress. And I think it's wonderful that CVS wants to come, but in the main, in the same way you're cutting me off, I took over in 2008 policies, and it's been a struggle. Because that fall in 08, the economy crashed. And I was like, God, what did I do? I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry. And things have just started to look good. And now the town is proposing cutting off the road. And I know y'all think it doesn't make a difference, but it does. Just one store. CVS has a lot of stores, and I'm not against them coming to the corner. I welcome it. I think it's wonderful because their stores suffer. But in the same respect, please don't cut my lifeline off, and don't put me on the list of all the other stores that have closed in Edenton, because there is a list. And we all can make Edenton great together, because we're all important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anita. Ma'am, we have to administer an oath to you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, tell us your name and where you reside, please.
My name is Julia Townsend. I reside at 916 Baton Road. So that puts me as a resident of this neighborhood in question, as well as a business owner, co-business owner of both a nonprofit as well as a nascent for-profit business. I have something to read to you, but I first would like to start off just to be clear, because it seems that, first of all, thank you very much for listening to me. This is the second time I've been allowed to speak at the meeting about this topic, and I appreciate that very much. I would just like to start by saying I was shocked when I heard that they were proposing to close off Baton Road. I use that part of Baton Road regularly, sometimes daily, sometimes more than once in a day. Several times in a day I go down there. I drive it, I bicycle it, and I walk it. I know it very well. I pick up garbage on it. I complain about the garbage. I also complain about the people who speed on it. But never in a million years would I have proposed to close the road. It's just part of the community. It's how we live there. Okay, so now I'd like to read. Closing off the flow of traffic between Route 32 and Paradise Road will undoubtedly affect businesses on Baton Road. Closing off the part of Baton Road should not even be a discussion. At one time, it provided access to a major employer and was one of the busiest peanut mills in North Carolina. When one of the business owners was told, "Don't worry, there will still be access to your business," or "people know where your business is," the business owner responded that at least several times a month, customers report that they discovered the shop by chance, i.e. as they were driving by. Also, the majority of customers access the business from Route 32, not from Paradise Road or 2nd or 3rd Street. From a local, long-standing business owner's perspective, priority is being given to an international corporation rather than local business. Baton Road is a walkway for pedestrians and a safer road for bicyclists than North Broad Street. People who shop and work on or near Route 32 will have to walk around and use crossings at the intersection. where there are no crosswalks and no proposals to add any as far as I know. Improvement on current road conditions, litter pickup, drainage issues that lead to flooding, and general policing for crime in the area should be immediate concern, not during or after construction of a corporate building already established a short distance away. The proposal claims that the other 3 access points are sufficient for the circulation of traffic to and from the neighborhood. Yet these roads and intersections have numerous potholes, unpaved areas, 3rd Street for almost 2 years now, narrow passages, and intersections where tractor trailers cannot make turns. The proposal states that this fall, Batham Road and nearby streets are scheduled to be paved. Actually, Batham Road has been in need for paving for several years. As there has not been a priority or budget to pave Batham Road in recent years, what evidence is there that the other improvements will be done in a timely fashion, if at all? And who's paying for them, of course? 2nd and 3rd Street were not planned for tractor trailers. Will 3rd Street be widened where it passes over the drainage ditch? Will the drainage ditch parallel to 3rd Street be covered over? Will the intersection on the corner of 2nd and North Broad be expanded into the hotel property? Will the intersection of the corner of 3rd and North Broad expand closer to the mobile home? If this proposal were really in the interest of enhancement of the neighborhood, then those budget proposals would be presented first, not as a vague promise for later. I've seen no timeline for these accommodations and minimal evidence of budget for this work. The proposal includes a traffic study. People feel that the traffic study did not study the important points. How will the intersection handle an increase in traffic? Some of the missing factors are exactly how many cars pass down Batham Road to and from Route 32 at present. How many are delivery vehicles, such as tractor trailers, UPS, FedEx, U.S. Postal Service? How would this affect them? How much time does it take to access areas off Batham Road for emergency personnel currently? And how much time would road closure add? The Broad Street Traffic Survey only listed, quote, vehicles. How many are tractor trailers and farm equipment? The Route 32 Broad Street intersection is already problematic for 48 to 53-foot tractor trailers that come from Jimbo Jumbos and nearby businesses, making turns on a normal day. Frequently, vehicles waiting at the red light have to back up to provide space. This accounts for a blockage equal to 3 to 6, quote, vehicles tractor trailer length and can block access for emergency personnel. Next, no farm equipment or extra farm harvest vehicles are accounted for in this study, and they could possibly triple the amount of vehicles on these roads and intersections 2 to 3 times a year for a few weeks at a time. They take up more space, move slower, and have implements protruding that already pose a danger to the public if not given the space needed. Lastly, at present, several cars at a time park in front of the vehicle registration office on North Broad Street. Vehicles stop and wait for a traffic opening in oncoming traffic in order to continue north and get around these vehicles, as there is not enough width to proceed otherwise. With the additional traffic on North Broad, further backups and occasional stoppages will occur. These feel like obvious omissions. Elderly residents in this neighborhood stated that closing the road delays access to police, fire, and emergency vehicles in the hospital. People have told me that. The CVS is already located in a shopping center with plenty of space for parking and drive-thrus. Couldn't they expand their business equally if they created a drive-thru in their current location? Lastly, and this is sort of a different topic, but CVS has been working on this for several years. Why then were letters to the community for the first informational meeting on August 12th, dated August 5th, and mailed on August 6th? Since approximately August 13th, a small sign has been posted on Batham Road in the area that CVS plans to build on. The sign has no dates, does not mention a possible road closing, and the number for more information leads to a recording that doesn't explain anything. We are told that there will be another sign posted later with specific information. Why is the sign being posted after the informational meeting, after the planning board meeting, and after the town council meeting? I'm sure this is all done according to specification, but it does seem odd as a resident there. Residents on 3rd Street did not receive any notices, and at least one of them was not aware of the proposal until well after the informational meeting. Another only learned about it last week. The motel owner only learned about it over Labor Day weekend, and his property is located on both sides of 2nd Street. I think that's all the main ideas I have to cover. Just there were a few things that came up tonight. We haven't seen, there is mention of a drainage report, and we haven't been able to see that one. And the other proposals about road changes, that was speculation, I guess, eliminating a left turn. And lastly, I think it's great that people will be allowed to give comments until tomorrow at 6. I know that there are people without internet. There are people who speak Spanish who just feel very intimidated and would never come to any of these meetings. I would even like to ask if you could extend until the end of the week so that people could actually, get the word out more so that they could get their comments in, if that might be possible. Thank you.
Ma'am, could you tell us again what your business is on Battle Road?
I have specifically, I would never want to get into a debate about business going head to head with Big Pharma. My business is so small compared to CVS.
I just asked you, what is your business on Battle Road? That's all I ask.
Yeah, well,
What business are you in?
a nonprofit artist residency program and a new frame shop just being started now. Again, I'm not even arguing from the business standpoint. Just as a person who lives in the neighborhood is more of my concern.
And Battle Road is on our list that's going to be repaved this fall. Has been for quite some time.
Right. I guess, just to repeat my concern at the last meeting, I'm confused why the discussion of closing Baton Road has been sandwiched. It seems like a totally separate issue that should be discussed separately from CVS. I wish CVS had been invited to give a plan both with the closing of Baton Road and without the closing of Baton Road, as they are two separate issues and are going to be discussed actually in a separate manner. And certainly CVS will look better than what's there now. I find it hard to, no one wants an empty, unused corner there.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
She purchased 3 rings.
Oh, she did.
And she owns gold.
Oh, she is. Okay, did you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You got it. Okay, please tell us your name and your residence, please.
My name is Sally Francis Keyhays, and I live at 2333 Locust Grove Road, which means that I live in the county, but I shop in Edenton. I was reminded this morning of the importance of what you all do as a town council. I pulled into a parking spot in front of the Barker House next to a car that had 3 young ladies in it, and their window was rolled down. They weren't playing music. There was an adult voice speaking. And it dawned on me, and I said, "Are you all going to school?" And she said, "Yes." They didn't have internet access, and they come into town so they can hook up and use the internet access of the town. So, things you do have a big impact that you might not know for years. And I feel that way about the closing of Baton Road. I'm here in support of Halsey's business. That business has been in Edenton for almost 40 years in that same location. The current owners have been there for 12 years. And what you may not know is what a strong community partner they have been in those 12 years. I am sure that each of you have been to a fundraiser, in a tent, in a building, even at a funeral, where Halsey's has loaned plants for decorations, or for comfort, or to add to the ambiance, to encourage people to give back to the community. That's what Art and Anita have been doing at Halsey's for the last 12 years. And if they say that this will have a negative impact on their business, I would hope you would take that seriously and perhaps relook. I think I heard something about it was possible to relook at Baton Road and shifting it so it might not have to be closed. I would encourage you to do that. At the same time, I'm excited that we won't have to look at that empty Shell station, and it will be a nice addition to people driving through town. So thank you, CBS. But please think about the community partners who are already there and have been there for years, and what they contribute to our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
No one else wishing to speak?
No one else?
Mayor, if I might, I did receive a written comment, emailed to me earlier, late this afternoon, for somebody who asked that it be read into the record. Is it okay for me?
Sure, absolutely.
This is from Jessie Rivers, a resident of Hawthorne Road, and she wrote that she is not in favor of the current proposal to close Baton Road at Virginia Road. She said, I use Baton Road and Virginia Road intersection to enter and exit my neighborhood. I live on Hawthorne, which is the first left after turning off of Virginia Road onto Baton Road. I feel that Baton Road closed at Virginia Road would inhibit and delay rescue vehicles in and out of the neighborhood, decrease neighborhood watch patrols, decrease property values, inhibit access to existing businesses and recreation areas on Baton Road. I favor the location of a new CVS at the current shopping center, revitalized by a new anchored grocery store. Perhaps where the old Southern Bank building is, could provide a drive-through access for CVS. Thank you, sincerely, Jessie Rivers.
Thank you. Okay, I guess our next step in this process is for council deliberation, and I'll call on Anne Marie and Hood to advise us on this process, please.
So, Mayor, as some of the council members, the veteran members know, that the conditional use permit process requires the council to vote, make findings of fact, and vote on 4 specific findings. And I put on your dais tonight a hard copy of Elizabeth's staff report, even though you received it electronically. But we did flag for you the 4 criteria that you would have to vote on separately. And 1, you have to find that the project will not endanger public health or safety. Number 2, will not injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. Number 3, will be in harmony with the area in which it is located. And number 4, will be in conformity with the land use plan, thoroughfare plan, or other plans officially adopted by the town council. And you'll remember, and you have read in the staff report, the findings that staff presented to you in terms of supporting the number 3 and number 4. And then again, remind you that this is unusual times because of the state of emergency, and it's you won't be able to vote on these findings tonight, as you know. Also, if you were to decide to move forward and support the, or issue the permit with the closure of Baton Road, there will be another step in the process. And Hood is here and he can explain that process to you. Hood?
Yes, ma'am. Closing Baton Road requires the council to adopt a resolution of intent, and that then has to be advertised, put in the paper for once a week for 4 weeks, and notices sent to adjoining landowners who would be affected. And again, so you would vote on that resolution of intent, and then you would come back and have the public hearing. You then have to make findings of whether or not it's in the public interest, whether anybody's adversely affected in their ability to access their property. And at that point in time, you could officially vote to close a portion of Baton Road or of the road that's in question. Or you could elect not to after you have that public hearing, or if you can't make the required findings. But again, that's a separate process from the conditional use permit that's in front of you tonight, although obviously it's mixed in with it because the site plan in front of you involves closing that portion of Baton Road. So again, if you were to vote tomorrow night, and I guess one of the conditions would be that, you know, the site plan and the permit would be approved on condition that that portion of Baton Road was closed in future action. But again, that won't happen until you get that to that specific issue. So again, as far as the conditional use permit in front of you, certainly one of the conditions would have to be that it would be, if you approved it, that it would be dependent upon deciding to close Baton Road in the future. And Anne Marie, I'm just pointing out, I know there are other people on this Zoom call with me, or this Zoom meeting, and I don't know whether they're members of the public that want to participate in the public hearing or not, but I didn't know if the mayor might want to ask.
I thought our procedures did not allow for public comment via Zoom.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't know if there's anybody that was, I guess that's the way it's going to be done, is that they'll submit the written comments.
Yes.
That's correct.
Could I ask you a question, Hood? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is there any harm in us putting this thing off a month, asking them to come back with a plan that meets the questions we had, and also an alternative to closing the road so we could see it? And then, because I mean, I feel like we're not really ready to vote on this thing. I mean, is there any reason that we couldn't get that alternative plan, get the architectural changes, and possibly talk about the use of the house next door, and then come back and vote next meeting? I mean, I just don't want to. I think this is a big deal for us. It's obviously a big deal for the residents. I mean, I'm uncomfortable closing a road, I will tell you that. And I think that if we wait and just have an alternative, we might come up with something that makes everybody feel a little bit better. So, is there any reason we have to vote tonight? I mean, tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do this next month, with these questions answered.
If somebody in the council wants to make a motion to table this, until you get further information, that's certainly your prerogative.
I'm gonna make that motion.
I'd like to second it, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to delay the voting on this for 30 days to the next.
Yeah, till we get these
October
answers.
meeting.
Meantime,
Okay.
more information.
And I'm not against this project,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
may I speak? May I say something, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Who is that?
This is Marshall Hart. I'm the developer.
Okay, yes, sir.
My only problem with this, and I want to do everything I can to make the city as happy as I possibly can. But because of COVID, everyone understands that this is, I certainly understand that the city has had their backs to the wall, and your folks have worked with us as much as you possibly could. But my my contract on this railroad property expires next month. Like I think October the 10th, Trey, if I'm not mistaken. And we have already spent, and if it's y'all's decision to table it, then there's nothing I can do. From our perspective, we've spent a great deal of money paying option money and money to extend these contracts. And I don't know that we've got the time, I don't think we have enough time left in our contract without going back and getting more time from the railroad, and you can imagine what that's like. And I'm asking if I promise you that whatever you ask us to do to make you happy from a site plan perspective, look, we didn't, I think your folks will tell you, this was not our idea to close Baton Road. We are doing what we were asked to do, and we want to do everything possible to make the city happy and to allow us to build this store here. So I've just got my back to the wall in terms of timing. So anyway.
Mr. Hart, how long would it take you to get back to us with a alternative to closing Baton Road?
And the architectural stuff.
And the architectural, yeah.
2 weeks to 3 weeks?
Well, he said he's got till October 10th.
Yeah, so that's.
Jordan, don't you have a plan?
There's a site plan that was shown in Elizabeth's report. There was a site plan that was shown in Elizabeth's report that shows the saving of Baton Road.
Yeah, but, I mean, I don't think we're gonna just go adopt that one right now. I mean, I think you would move it over to alleviate the traffic concerns. I mean, I'm not, really willing to change the motion right now based on that. I mean, I'm confident you can get, I know I deal with railroads all the time in my business and they're difficult, but, I think you can make it happen. There's a lawyer in town, I know that can make it happen, so if that's a problem. I mean, we've been, y'all have been at this for years, and I think that this is the most important part, and it's just not fair for out-of-town people to start telling us how to handle our own business when we just got it up here. And these are people's lives, and so, I mean, I think we need to just put it on hold, get these answers, and then we'll vote on it.
Can't we go ahead and vote on the closing issue? That's a separate issue than the CBS issue.
I mean,
and then come back
I
and
would vote right now, if I voted. That's why I think we need to
I'm concerned about once they close Baton Road, that what's the impact gonna be on all of the rest of the street, I think it's first, third, whatever. Because Baton Road and all of the streets over there is not wide. They're not, 2 trucks. I have to get on the grass to pass some cars. Those streets are too narrow in there, and it's gonna throw, if you cut it off, it's gonna throw a big impact on the rest of those streets, because the streets are too narrow. You have another problem.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So, if you all are feeling that you're not going to be able to support the closure of Baton Road, if that's going to require a public hearing, it has to be advertised 4 weeks, like Hood explained it to you. So if you're feeling that that road needs to be closed for this project, then you're looking at October 13th. If there's a sense by more than, the majority of you, and you can't take a vote tonight, that you are not going to support Baton Road, but you want the developer to present, which they have done, staff, we saw the first site plan of realigning that, and instead of saying you're going to wait until October 13th, which would be after the deadline that the developer has with his contracts, could you delay or table the conditional use permit until your September, I can't remember the date when we meet, September 28th would do a special meeting, and that would give the developer time to work with CVS and the architect to look at renderings.
Yeah, that's fine.
That sounds good.
But then you're basically telling us, or you're giving us direction tonight that you, after hearing the public comments and considering everything that's been said, that you do not want to move forward with closing Baden Road. Marshall, how does that timetable sound?
Didn't they say they
I'm sorry, I was muted. I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes, that's fine. I'm not trying to be difficult, and I don't want to be characterized as somebody trying to tell the city of Edenton what to do. We've been paying option money on these contracts for a year now, and I get that this is a big decision for y'all. Whatever the city decides, we'll try to live with one way or the other.
That's fine with me. I mean, I'll make that motion to
We already
table
have a
until we
motion.
have to.
I got a question. Don't they already have an alternate route for Baden Road?
Yes, that was the original plan, which we showed you early in Elizabeth's staff report. They had proposed to realign, to move Baden Road. It would still be open, but it would line up a little bit.
It would be more in line with where the Walgreens driveway is across the street. So it would be moved.
I'm sorry, more in line with what?
The driveway would be, Baden Road would be moved west so that it is more in line with where the Walgreens driveway is across Virginia Road.
So if you're on Walgreens driveway, looking straight ahead, right there.
Correct.
Okay. So that solves one problem.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That solves one problem, right?
But that was, okay.
That solves the problem.
Yeah, that solves the
Not all
problem
of
with
them,
Baden Road.
Just the architectural stuff.
Oh,
But I mean, I think we could be ready to vote on it in September. I mean, I think that'd be, whatever that meeting
A
is.
special meeting?
Yeah. So could I amend that motion to say, what is the date?
September 28th?
Okay, that we'll table this until September 28th, but do you want us to go ahead and say and go back to the non-closure of Baden Road in that motion? Is that?
Could they could say that, but they could also just vote the resolution down that's on the agenda tonight?
I thought we couldn't vote.
Yeah, again, if that's the consensus of council that they're not gonna adopt a resolution of intent to close Baden Road, then, they can go ahead and do that right now, and that takes it off the table.
So that resolution could be eliminated.
Yeah, so I'll withdraw my motion and make that motion, that we,
I second your
Yeah,
Can I ask one more question
Yeah.
before you do
I'm
that?
sorry.
Can I ask one more question? If you can move the road over some, what would be the difficulty in doing that?
We were requested by the town to not show that. That was what we brought to the town in our initial submittal, and we were requested not to.
We asked them to change it because we thought it would be.
So what you'd be doing, you'd be eliminating the cul-de-sac with a three-way turn. You just have a road.
If you can refer to the screen, it may be difficult to see, but on the west side of the property, Baden Road extends straight. Yes, thank you. So you can see where it connects just north of where the triangular property is, and then runs to the west slightly, and then connects back into Virginia, just to provide a little bit more sight for the width of the property that we would need.
So they'd pay more, they'd demolish, and then they'd rebuild. So that's part of the consideration too, you know.
So what is the motion?
The motion is to not close Baden Road.
I second, oh, you saw a second, I would be in favor of that. And withdrawing the resolution that we have before us tonight, is that what you're
I
saying?
just, Elizabeth alerted me correctly, in Hood, so do we still need a public hearing on closing the alleyway? and the paper street of Hughes Street?
Yes, you would still need that.
Okay.
If that closure is necessary for this site plan, yeah, you would need to proceed with closing that paper alley.
Okay.
So do you want me to amend that motion to say we don't close Batum, but we do close the paper street of Hughes
And the alleyway.
and the alleyway?
So that's all.
So I revise my motion.
Does that include, that's all
What is
inclusive?
this, where is that?
It's
So,
paper street.
Hang on, can you zoom, show more north where the alleyway and the paper street are, can you? There we go. So, help me out, Jordan, I might just
So-
get this to you. Sorry. This is the red button. See it right there. Thank you.
All right. So currently, the railroad runs basically directly down along this line right here, and Hughes Street, which is a paper street, which doesn't exist. It was never built. And an alleyway are legal documents that are showing that the town has the right along this property for Hughes Street
But
and
there's
the alley.
there's no signage there.
There's no sign, there's nothing that actually exists there today, but it is on paper. And so in order to develop this property and get a clean title, the developer would need the town to basically give up the rights to those two items.
Okay, can I hear the motion once again?
So the motion would be to not close Batum and to then close the paper street of Hughes, is it Avenue?
Hughes Street.
Hughes Street and its alley.
I second that,
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Remember,
Further discussion.
remember, you can't close those two things without adopting the resolution of intent and advertising it and then voting on it 30 days later. So
Okay, so
Again,
are we,
what you can do tonight is vote not to close Baton Road and then let Anne Marie and Elizabeth present the resolution of intent on the paper street at Hughes and on the alley, and vote on that when you get to that resolution of intent.
that was back to the original motion, so I'll.
That wouldn't have any bearing on Mr. Marshall's deal with the railroad, right? I mean, he could go ahead with that, with the latest motion. Hood, I'm asking you.
And maybe I didn't follow the question.
Okay, if we vote, just go ahead and vote to not close Battle Road, okay? So that Mr. Hart can go ahead with his deal with the railroad. And then we have to advertise for 4 weeks to close the paper road and the alleyway. And we can vote on that down the road further.
Then I think the resolution of intent on those two paper streets, again, I don't know that anybody would oppose that when they don't exist and nobody's ever, I think that.
Most of them be like me, not even know about.
Once he knows that Baton Road can't be closed, then he knows what he's got to deal with for the site plan to go forward.
Right.
So I will revise my motion to not close Batum Road and to proceed with whatever we need to proceed with to advertise and eventually close the Hughes Street and
Why do we have to do that and they don't exist?
because they're platted.
Hood can answer that for you. Hood, Councilman Bond is asking, why does the council have to take this action if they don't exist, if the paper streets don't exist?
And it's just to remove them from the public record. Again, Councilman Bond, they exist and it clouds the title on what these people want to use as part of the site plan, and that's why they're closing them, to just remove them from any form of the record, even though they've never been put put in existence. It's not an unfrequent thing that there are old paper streets that are shown on maps that were never put in, that we end up closing, and the title of that property goes to the adjoining owners.
Okay, any further discussion on this issue?
I just want to make sure that I've got this straight. So you're voting not to close Baton Road.
That's right.
And then you will vote on to modify the resolution that Hood prepared for you to proceed, to authorize us to proceed with the public hearing to close the Paper Street, Hughes Street, as well as the alleyway.
And that'd be down the road.
No, that, you would have to, if you adopt that tonight, then that action would be taken at your October 13th meeting, because we have to advertise it in the newspaper 4 weeks in a row.
But it would not hold up, Mr. Hart's deal with the railroad.
So that's a question for Marshall to answer.
Any further discussion?
Um,
Go ahead.
Were you asking me to answer that question?
Yes, sir.
What we care about is being able to get approval from the city so we can pull permit, close on the property. And am I understanding that you are not voting on the conditional use permit tonight, or have we not gotten to that?
That is correct, yes, sir.
So we're not voting on the CUP tonight, so then in theory, until the next meeting, we won't be able to pull, to really proceed any further with getting a plan reviewed and pulling our permits.
May you want me to?
Please.
So what staff proposed was that we would conduct a special meeting on September 28th for the council to vote on the 4 criteria for the special use permit, as well as to review the site plan showing Baton Road realigned, and then also hopefully have some revised architectural drawings.
And some answers on that property.
And
Okay, I understand.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the motion, as long as it was, please say
Aye.
opposed. Motion carried. I think we have it right.
so I would ask that you make a motion to table the conditional use permit to your September 28th meeting.
Okay, I make a motion to table.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And that's okay with Marshall?
Yes. Marshall, was that okay with you?
I'm not, yes, I have not, yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so I guess that does away with our meeting tomorrow night, Anne Marie. We will not have.
Correct. We can have the night off tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, our second public hearing is a hearing on a public nuisance at 700 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. And I'll call on Anne Marie for that, please. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Councilman Hyde can come back to his seat.
Welcome back, Hack.
So, your second public hearing is regarding a public nuisance that has been cited. It pertains to a garage that's located at, on 700 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. The building inspector began code enforcement action last winter and had set notice in a hearing which coincided with the beginning of COVID, so we kind of put all of our public hearings on public nuisances off to the side. But we recently revisited this one and sent out all the notice to the property owner. It's actually a mortgage company out of Detroit, Michigan, The property is vacant, and we sent the notices all over again. We published in the newspaper, and we had no response from the property owner. And so tonight, we're asking that you conduct a public hearing, see if anybody here is present that wants to speak about the proposed ordinance that you will hopefully consider adopting, and we can delay that to your September 28th meeting. You do not have to meet tomorrow for this. But the building inspector went by the property today, re-inspected it, and found that the nuisance still exists. So Mayor asks that you open the comment to public hearing, and then if there is any comment, hear that, and then afterwards close the public hearing, and then we can review the ordinance.
Okay. Tammy, do we have anybody out there that wants to speak on this behalf?
Can we ask questions on, so you have the house at the corner, and it's really the garage behind the house. The house looks like it's in pretty good shape, and the garage just needs to be, it seems like it needs to be washed up or cleaned out or whatever.
And the real nuisance is there's some tin that was blew off from a
Yeah.
storm, and so that needs to be removed
Is
or
that-
repaired.
Is that house occupied?
It's not
It is not.
occupied.
I noticed some children's stuff on the front porch, but.
No one here for that hearing.
Okay. All right, is it any
So is the
council
option
members
to repair it or to tear it down?
Well, the option was, it was written either way, but I think it'd be more effective, because the town will end up doing the work and just to get it repaired and
Okay.
not tear it down. And then put a lien on the property.
It's a nice piece of property that,
It's right there,
some others around there look up.
right across the street from the playground.
Any other comments, questions, or? Okay. I'll declare the public hearing closed then.
And so Mayor, if you would, ask for a motion to table this ordinance to your September 28th meeting.
Okay.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, and now we down to our committee meetings. And our first one is Administrative Committee, and that is chaired by Councilman Hyde.
Thank you, Mayor Stallings. The first agenda item that we have to discuss is for a discussion on the next steps for the creation of the Human Relations Commission. That has been a priority of ours since December and became a greater priority this spring with some events we saw on a national level, and continues to remain a priority of this committee and also this council. As I understand it from Ms. Knighton, we have closed the application period for participation on that commission. That closed on September 1st. I'm pleased to report that we had a very diverse, in terms of gender, age, and race, a very diverse slate of people that have volunteered for that. One thing that we'll need to work on is the manner in which we're going to select that committee, and I think we've come up with a few things. And Anne-Marie, if you can talk more about that, and just also where we are with the commission and what the next steps are. I know we're anxious, and I know the public's anxious to get started on this. And the next step obviously would be to select the members that are going to participate. And then there's some other details that I think you have a better grasp of than I do, if you'll help us out.
Okay, let's try. The 25 applicants, to me, it looked like there might have been 4 or 5 who were relatively new to the community, who I've not had the opportunity to meet, and perhaps you have, but I thought maybe, that small group that's been working on this project, Councilman Bond and Councilman High and Councilman Coleman, that we could set up a time for them to meet and greet these newcomers who have, God bless them, want to get involved and want to try to help and be a part of this process. And then I would suggest, or what I wrote to you over the weekend, was that perhaps you all individually could be thinking of looking at the list and thinking of people who you think would bring, various perspectives and various assets, various experiences, and let the mayor know who you think should be included as members of the commission. In the past, when Mayor Vaughn would appoint special commissions, he looked to the council to give their opinion and recommendation. And then I'm sure Mayor will reach out and talk to all of you and try to put together, the best group possible. And I know that the core group had been looking at a commission of anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 members. So be keeping that in mind. Since you had so many to apply, certainly think that a 12-member commission could work.
Are you saying that we would submit our list of 12 people to the mayor?
Or just talk to the mayor and say, I think.
No, he says submit, geez, that's already over.
No, I'm talking about,
Of the
just submit 12 of the 25.
Or you don't have to submit 12, we just, give them your
10.
recommendations of who you think would be good. So Mayor, you got a lot of work ahead of you, the council.
Or if you have someone that you absolutely think would not work on that committee, please let me know that as well.
And I think it would be important, one thing that Anne Marie and I have talked about, and one of the things that she has mentioned in some of her emails to us, is it's important that we get a good cross-section, that we get a cross-section of different viewpoints so that we'll have cross-cultural exchange, and by cross-cultural, the word culture, I mean in all different sorts, gender and outlook and race. So when you're making those recommendations, keep that in mind, that we are looking for a diverse cross-cultural group. I think we'll be more effective if we do that.
And then did you want me to talk about the next steps?
Yes, contractually, yeah.
We're trying to set some timetables for you to keep the process moving forward. But the core group met with Dr. Batts and had a really good discussion about expectations and what the next step should be. And so that group asked Dr. Batts to submit a proposal based on her recommendation that a forum or an educational forum be held for all 25 of the people who applied to be shared and exposed to a history of racism, history of Edenton's, civil rights, going back all the way to the Civil War, and talk about Edenton and race. And I did reach out to Dr. Batts, and she submitted kind of a rough proposal to me in terms of the number of hours and what the expectations were. And it looked fine to me, and so I asked her late today, as a matter of fact, to go ahead and submit that as a proposal. And we would talk with her and you all about how we would conduct that under COVID. Would we have to do 2 sessions, break it up, do 1 session, and have, people in here and people in there? But anyway, we'll work out all those details. But I think the goal would be to try to have that session launched and conducted. I can't remember what I wrote over the weekend, but it was within, I think, 30 days or so. Is that?
And again, I guess we don't really need a vote. We were just receiving the update, but just a general consensus to ask staff and Anne Marie to pursue along those lines, and then for all of us to get our thoughts to Mayor Stallings. And I think that's all we need tonight. Okay. The next matter that we have for consideration from the Administrative Committee, it's recommended that the Council adopt the 2020 Vision Statement as presented, and that presented vision statement includes 2 changes One of the changes is Chief King had recommended that we add a paragraph that we publicize to landlords the availability of the free North Carolina Department of Public Safety website that will let landlords know who has a criminal history in our community, and the proposed